The story of Donald Trump's administration is screw up after screw up, scandal after scandal, and that's because our idiotic president has surrounded himself with the most unqualified people to ever be in a cabinet. And the only way that those cabinet officials can avoid these scandals or screw ups is by not working at all, which is the position that Kash Patel has taken, reportedly being at nightclubs more than he is at the FBI office. But in the small time that Kash Patel has actually spent working, oh, you better believe he's gotten himself involved in some criminal activity. And that is exactly what was called out to his face as he imploded before Congress. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really does mean a lot to me. Now let's check out this absolute meltdown as Kash Patel was ripped to shreds in Congress.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers, Ranking Member Meng, Chairman Cole, Ranking Member DeLauro. And thank you, Mr. Patel, for your testimony and for being here today. I've been looking at the president's 120-word FBI budget request, the so-called skinny, I'll call it Ozempic request, that states that, quote, the undoing of the weaponization of the FBI is one of the administration's top priorities. The weaponization of the FBI that is something that deeply concerns me. It should concern all of us. And yet, since taking office, President Trump has been on a revenge tour. He has targeted individuals, universities, law firms, with executive orders to cut them out or to make them come under his will. He has used ICE to disappear U.S. citizens without due process, and he's fully ignored a unanimous Supreme Court order, and then over the weekend wasn't sure if he was obligated to uphold the Constitution of the United States. In your book, your recent book, Government Gangsters, you include an appendix with a list of names that people have referred to as an enemies list. Now, I know you will claim it's just an appendix, not an enemies list. So let's focus on how the president sees it, on what the president calls it. And you proudly display his quote on the front cover of your book. The president calls this a brilliant roadmap, a blueprint. And I have not even raised your storied children's book, The Plot Against the King. It concerns me how many people from this blueprint have been targeted with executive orders and FBI investigations. The FBI cannot be weaponized, and under your leadership, it has been nothing but a weapon alongside the president to go after the president's perceived opponents, to stifle dissent and free speech. A few weeks ago, as we saw through a social media post that you quickly deleted, the FBI arrested a judge in Wisconsin for correctly asking ICE officials if they had a judicial warrant instead of an administrative warrant, which they did not have. Despite this judge following the law, on the morning of April the 25th, the FBI arrested the judge in an escalation of the weaponization of the FBI under your leadership. Let me be clear. A functioning democracy does not lock up judges. I am gravely concerned about the utter lack of independence of the FBI and its weaponization under your leadership. I am concerned that the president is using this book, your book, as a blueprint, as he has said. It's a blueprint for revenge. And I am concerned that your eagerness, a childlike giddiness to carry out the president's revenge tour, you've shown yourself to be unserious in your statements before you were sworn in and some after. You've shown yourself unfit to lead this important agency. I was an impeachment manager for President Trump's second impeachment. It was a sad, solemn duty. And so I wanted to ask you about that. Mr. Patel, as you and the president continue to weaponize and investigate his perceived enemies, as you follow this blueprint, when can I, a former impeachment manager, expect the FBI at my door?
Ma'am, you want to know who was targeted by weaponized FBI? Me. You want to know how and why?
Well,
you want to know what I'm doing to fix it?
That. Let me move on.
Well, you should read the book because there's no enemies
So-
list on that book.
so
There are
you-
people that violated their constitutional obligations and their duties to the American people,
That's good. You
and they
gave
were
them due
rightly
process.
called out,
I'm
and
changing
you should
topics.
give that book to every one of your constituents so they can read about it.
I won't be doing that.
That's their loss.
During your Senate confirmation hearings, you repeatedly denied having any involvement as a private citizen in the firing of FBI officials who engaged in the prosecution against January 6 insurrectionists, the violent rioters who beat and killed Capitol police officers, and whom you referred to as political prisoners. Since then, multiple whistleblowers have come forward, and we know that you likely committed perjury. At the same hearing, you claimed you were not familiar with Stu Peters, an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, despite the fact that you appeared on Mr. Peters' podcast 8 separate times. 8 times, and you claimed not to recall. Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing perjury.
Veracity.
Tell the American
You didn't
people how
tell-
I broke the law and committed a felony.
You
Have
didn't.
the audacity to actually
No,
put the
all right,
facts
then the
forward
answer is
instead of
both.
lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second
answer is-
donation hit.
The answer is both. I believe that the
The
men and
answer is
women of
you're
the-
failing, not
I
me.
reclaim my time.
Go ahead.
Mr. Patel, I believe that the members of the FBI, and I know many of them, many retired, 38,000 people, as you say, it's a little less than that now, deserve the very best, deserve extraordinary independence, deserve freedom from the fears of being investigated, the freedom of coming forward to make sure they're doing their job. And I'll end with this, that I think it's interesting that in your proposal today, you find yourself at a gulf of difference between you and the president. I wonder how you will resolve that. Will you go to the president and say, we need $11.2 billion, not what you cut out of here? You're asking for more than $1 billion than the president's request. Are you going to go to the president and straighten out that gulf?
I'll do what I've always done and represent the American people, defend this country, and make sure the Constitution is always upheld and the FBI is never weaponized. Maybe you should do the same.
So you agree with the president when he says he doesn't know if he should uphold his constitutional duty?
If you want to just keep putting words in my mouth, the TV cameras are outside.
I thank you. I yield back. Again, this is an unserious moment, sadly, for the FBI. I yield back.
More so for you.
Of course, Kash Patel is lying. He has built his entire career on lying and lying on behalf of Donald Trump. It's one of the scariest things about the people who Donald Trump has surrounded himself with is not only are they yes men who are willing to do whatever Donald Trump wants, but they also try to predict what he would want. It's the reason that we saw Pete Hegseth, without approval, cut huge amounts of funding to Ukraine. And then he had to roll it back because he was guessing, well, Donald Trump is Putin's puppet. I might as well do this. It's the same thing that we see with Kash Patel. It's the reason we saw those firings at the FBI before he was even sworn in that he lied about. And of course, he was also perjuring himself when he said that he didn't appear on these podcasts. He didn't know these conservative conspiracy theorists. There was no enemies list except for the fact that it was, and it was in your book that you published. But those are the lies and hypocrisy that we can always expect from MAGA. And it continued today with Kash Patel and Pam Bondi when they had this to say right here.
Our children. If you harm our children, you will be given no sanctuary. There is no place we will not come to hunt you down. There is no place we will not look for you. And there is no cage we will not put you in should you do harm to our children. The prioritization of this administration and General Bondi has made it abundantly clear to child predators. You will be hunted down and you will be prosecuted. And that is a refreshing thing to hear for the men and women who do this work tirelessly. And it's also an acknowledgement of the safety that we look forward to bringing America.
You're going to protect our kids like U.S. citizens you're deporting 2-year-olds with cancer? Is that an example of protecting our kids? Also, these are the people talking about the Epstein list, and we're going to go after, the Epstein clients. Donald Trump's best buddy, by the way. And I'm so sick and tired of this Epstein stuff from Republicans, not only because of the hypocrisy. The man is not a conspiracy theory. He was a real sick, evil, twisted criminal. And the fact that they make some whole joke of this, some whole show, like they think it's a fun game, people's lives were lost, were affected, were destroyed by this evil person, and you think it's funny? I am disgusted by them. And we should have all seen this coming from Kash Patel. Of course we did. Senator Adam Schiff called it out long ago.
Now, Kash Patel sat before the Senate Judiciary Committee and under oath insisted he knew of no plans to punish FBI employees involved in investigations related to Donald Trump. He positively levitated at the suggestion that such a thing could even be true. Then within days, top FBI agents were fired. Thousands of FBI employees, career professionals, were sent a detailed questionnaire demanding they disclose any involvement in investigations related to the January 6th insurrection. A warning accompanied this. Additional personnel actions could follow. And yet, Mr. Patel testified that, quote, there will be no politicization at the FBI. There'll be no retributive actions taken by any FBI should I be confirmed as FBI director. He sat in that committee room and told the Senate all FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. That was a Thursday. 3 weeks ago, the very next day, the purges began. Before the ink had dried on the transcript of that hearing, the retribution campaign had begun. In his written response to questions, Patel denies knowing about these actions in advance. denies knowing whether he discussed these dismissals with the White House, the DOJ, or the FBI. He wrote, "I do not recall having conversations with the transition team about pursuing any particular investigations or targets." I asked him in writing about these actions, and his answer was he doesn't remember. But in fact, whistleblowers have come forward to testify or to state that not only did Patel know about the upcoming purges, he was directing those dismissals. How could he not recall that? It wasn't years ago or even months. It was days before. Days before his written answers to those questions, those written answers where he said he couldn't recall, he was directing these purges covertly as a private citizen.
Kash Patel has perjured himself again and again. He's breaking the law. He's doing it at the direction of Donald Trump, and we should all be very afraid and pay more attention to what is happening at the FBI.